Oh, Henshaw here, Constitutional Crisis Channel. Here we go with another current events topic, and this is the single-payer healthcare system that Congress is ostensibly in the process of putting into place. And of all the current alternatives, I do think this is the best of the lot, but that's not saying a whole lot considering what it really should be. But certainly Trump has to know, and his advisors have to know, that financing it from the federal government isn't the answer. It's not the long-term answer. We may have to do it temporarily, but the single payer, at least, and especially if there's no, when you sign up for it, they tell you all the terms and conditions, and there's no waivers of rights pursuant to fictions of law, like so often happens when you engage in contract with the government. I think it would be perfectly fine to do for now, particularly since we are not the responsible parties here for having a financial system which is based on the circulation of evidences of debt and a military venue. It's exactly what Federal Reserve notes are. That's a video for another day. Trust me, I can prove every bit of it. But the point here is, with the single payer, I think that's at least manageable for the time being, until we can get enough of a Republican majority in Congress, to take care of business and do away with things. Now, you can't, by the way, actually you can. Congress, if they wanted to, can do away overnight at the stroke of a pen with social insecurity. Are they going to do it? No, that's political suicide. They have the power to do it. What I want to see is that they phase it out over, say, 15 or 20 years, so the ones that are still in the system over that course of time will get benefits that they rightly should have and would have had the court decided Fleming v. Nestor in a different way. We've talked about that case before. But then you could do that, and then over the course of 15 years, you're phasing things out, and now the people entering the workforce don't pay the taxes. They take it all home with them. That's a hell of a lot better and much more consistent with the fact that we have property rights in the form of our time and our labor. What the hell else is there if there isn't that? But that said, a lot of what goes on, and I'm willing to bet you again, if I'm a fly on the wall in the back rooms at the White House, they're discussing the same issues I am, is that the reasons that the federal government can't do it were very succinctly set forth by the dissenters, the Four Horsemen, in the case of Charles C. Steward, S-T-E-W-A-R-D, versus Steward Machine Company versus Davis, 301 U.S. 548. And their dissent in this case, they make an extensive citation of an excerpt from the veto by President Franklin Pierce of what in effect was the Social Insecurity Act of 1854. For this reason, Pierce is among my top 10 presidents, which maybe isn't saying a whole lot. There's not a hell of a lot of people that contest this as far as the top 10 is concerned, unlike the bottom 10. But nevertheless, this veto, if you read this and read what he said about why it can't be done, it's much more clear, cogent, and compelling than what I can do here. I may even do a separate video on the case later. Those of you who want it, let me know. Contact me by email below. It's ccaspari@live.com. I'll get it to you. And while we're discussing that, I should also add that at the current time, we're offering a 10% discount to people that subscribe to my network, to my document packets that you can also request information for. And tell your friends, like the videos. This will help get them spread out further and get more of us involved. And the more of us that take on these bastards, the more trouble they're going to have. And they can't keep denying all of us. Sooner or later, it gets to a breaking point, and that's what I'm trying to do. And I may have it in the Merced case. I've talked to you about that. We won't go into it here. But you read this dissent of the Four Horsemen, to see what the court did at the time was make an astronomical increase in the power of Congress under the Interstate Commerce Clause powers. They did that 80 years ago, and we're suffering from that even today, what they did there. The government thinks everything is interstate commerce, the subject I've discussed at length on other videos. None of it is. That's what has to change. And we can get it back. It just won't happen overnight, but it can be done equitably, fairly, and over the course of 15 or 20 years, and we get things put back to at least the states, if not the counties, where it would be much more efficiently done and consistent with the Constitution, not in contravention of it. So that's a big deal with all this is going on, and I hope a lot of people in the Trump administration are thinking along the same lines that I do. And I'm willing to bet you, for example, that Neil Gorsuch understands a lot of what it is I'm saying. How much he follows through with it as a justice on the court, I don't know. But from what I've seen, I have reason to think that he does. And maybe Sam Alito does. Clarence Thomas certainly does. So we have people on the court that get this. And if we start getting the right cases there with the right questions, and we get decisions in our favor, this goes a long way towards helping and motivating Congress to do the right thing and legislate a lot of these things out of existence, turn it back over to the states or the counties. That's where it belongs. So the single payer, like I said, for the time being, is fine. Once we get through with that, we get back to where we should be, and hopefully back to where we have specie circulating, gold and silver coin, not federal evidences of debt in the form of Federal Reserve notes. That's the Federal Reserve Act, and where I'm going right now, I'm headed to being able to take that directly down on constitutional grounds. And if we get that done and we're restored back to gold and silver, again, it won't be perfect right away, but it will be a hell of a lot better. Subject matter for another day. You're going to love the video I'm going to do on this as a teaser. Maybe not the next time we get together, but the time after, I'll have a lot to say on this issue. And once you understand this one in concert with state versus territory and effective assistance of counsel, the 1, 2, 3, the ratio of representation, and other issues I advocate, it's so simple. And you say to yourself, how can attorneys not understand this? They've been in law school 4 or 6 years. They don't get this? Damn. Or are they actively concealing it? And some of them are. Those are the ones I want to put in jail. And you should too. Most of them simply don't know. Although, as they sanctimoniously tell us when we're in their courtrooms, ignorance of the law is no excuse. Well, it isn't for them either. So, that said, this is a very interesting subject matter. We'll see what the Trump administration does with this. And hopefully they'll see things the same way that I do. And if in the second, Trump administration, if there is one, we can, we can go into that even more and hope that they'll have enough of a majority to change things. By the way, I should note here that, a lot of people are trying to proceed here, especially libertarians, on the false presumption that we're in a free market economy here. Capitalistic free market economy. That's not what we have here. At best, it's fascist, with the corporate control over all the assets. And believe me, that's not hard to imagine, since Franklin D. Roosevelt was a big admirer of Benito Mussolini, the head fascist himself. It may be more National Socialist, that's Herr Hitler. You can make that argument too, which I personally do. You could even claim it was communist. And yet, think about this one for a minute, because if it's communist, and back in the 1930s we're enacting all this communist legislation, and now we get to the 50s with the big red communist scare and Senator Eugene McCarthy, well, hell, instead of prosecuting all those people out there in Hollywood, which some of them are probably guilty, they should have gone after all the members of Congress who took oaths of office to preserve, protect, and defend this Constitution. And they're changing this over to communism. What the hell is this? Well, you got to start with this case, Steward Machine versus Davis, and you read the dissent in particular. It's crystal clear. There's no legalities here. There's no nicety about it. This is what happened, the exponential expansion of the Commerce Clause powers of Congress, and we have to take it back. That's our job as citizens. Don't sit around and wait for your local politicians to do it, because it ain't going to happen. We have to do it ourselves, but it's not nearly as hard as you would think. And in fact, as I can personally tell you, it's a hell of a lot of fun to go into their own courts and stuff them. I mean, I just shut them up in South Carolina like you can't believe it. I wish we would have videos you could see it. My goodness, 30 seconds, stunned silence. This will happen to you too, because they either A, don't know how to answer you, or B, know if they answer you on the record, they've just committed acts of treason. And that's the real power we have. And as I mentioned in earlier videos, I'll be talking to Jefferson Sessions about that and seeing if I can't get some grand jury indictments for treason against certain public servants out here in California. And we'll see how that goes. Thank you.